Have you ever felt completely ignored in a conversation or struggled to get your point across? It can be frustrating when you know what you want to say, but just can't seem to persuade others. Persuasion is a vital skill that can make a huge difference in our personal and professional lives. Whether we're trying to convince our friends to try a new restaurant or negotiate a deal with a client, being able to persuade others is crucial. But what if I told you that there's a way to take your persuasion skills to the next level? By combining psychological tactics with the timeless wisdom of Stoicism, you can become a master persuader. The thing is, persuasion isn't just about convincing others, it's also about understanding and respecting their perspectives. When we take the time to truly listen and empathize, we build trust and credibility. And that's where Stoicism comes in. By cultivating self-awareness, emotional control, and inner strength, we become more effective communicators and persuaders. But before we dive into the tactics, let's acknowledge the importance of persuasion in our daily lives. Whether it's persuading our kids to eat their veggies or convincing our boss to give us a raise, persuasion is an essential skill that can benefit us in countless ways. People often struggle with persuasion because they're not prepared for the emotional resistance that comes with it. We've all been there. We try to make our point, but the other person gets defensive or dismissive. It's frustrating, and it can be hard to know how to respond. And sometimes the biggest challenge is just getting people to listen. We might be dealing with communication barriers like language or cultural differences, or maybe the other person is just not in the right mindset to hear what we have to say. Another common issue is that people often focus too much on being right rather than finding common ground. This can lead to arguments and conflicts that are hard to resolve. And sometimes, even if we do manage to persuade someone, it's not a lasting change. They might agree with us in the moment, but later on they'll revert back to their old ways. We might also struggle with persuasion because we're not confident in our own abilities. We might be afraid of rejection or criticism, or we might doubt our own authority on the subject. And sometimes we just don't know how to structure our argument in a way that's clear and compelling. Then there's the problem of emotional appeal. We might be trying to persuade someone using logic and reason, but the other person is making their decision based on emotions. Or maybe we're trying to appeal to someone's emotions, but we're not doing it in a way that resonates with them. Furthermore, people often overlook the power of context. We might be trying to persuade someone in a setting that's not conducive to open and honest communication, like trying to have a deep conversation in a noisy coffee shop. Additionally, we might be dealing with people who are not open to change or new ideas. Maybe they're stuck in their ways, or maybe they're just not willing to listen to alternative perspectives. Sometimes persuasion can also be hampered by our own biases and assumptions. We might be coming from a place of judgment rather than empathy and understanding. Or maybe we're relying too heavily on our own experiences and not considering the other person's perspective. And finally, people often struggle with persuasion because they're not willing to adapt their approach. They might be using the same tactics over and over without considering the unique needs and concerns of the person they're trying to persuade. So what are the psychological tactics that can help us overcome these challenges and become master persuaders? Let's start with tactic number 1, establishing a connection through shared values. This is all about finding common ground with the person you're trying to persuade and using that connection to build trust and credibility. When we share values with someone, we create a sense of belonging and community. This can help to break down barriers and create a more open and receptive mindset. For example, if you're trying to persuade a potential client to work with you, you might find out that you both value innovation and creativity. From there, you can use that shared value to build a connection and establish trust. The second tactic is to use storytelling to create an emotional connection. Storytelling is a powerful way to convey complex ideas and make them more relatable and memorable. By using stories, we can tap into people's emotions and create a deeper connection. Tactic number 3 is to use the power of scarcity to create a sense of urgency. When something is scarce, it becomes more valuable and coveted. This can be a powerful motivator for people and can help to drive action and decision-making. The fourth tactic is to use the principle of social proof to build credibility. This is all about showcasing the social norms and behaviors of others to influence the person you're trying to persuade. For example, if you're trying to persuade someone to try a new restaurant, You might mention that it's been endorsed by a famous food critic. The fifth tactic is to use the power of reciprocity to create a sense of obligation. When we do something for someone else, they're more likely to want to do something for us in return. This can be a powerful way to build relationships and create a sense of mutual benefit. The sixth tactic is to use the principle of authority to establish credibility and trust. When we're perceived as experts or authorities in our field, people are more likely to listen to what we have to say and follow our advice. The seventh tactic is to use the power of commitment to create a sense of consistency. When people make a commitment to something, they're more likely to follow through on it. This can be a powerful way to drive action and create lasting change. The eighth tactic is to use the principle of contrast to make our message more compelling. This is all about highlighting the differences between two options and using that contrast to make our message more appealing. The ninth tactic is to use the power of social influence to create a sense of belonging. When we're surrounded by people who share our values and beliefs, we're more likely to adopt those values and beliefs ourselves. And finally, the 10th tactic is to use the principle of framing to shape people's perceptions. This is all about presenting information in a way that influences how people think and feel about it. For example, we might frame a message in a positive or negative light, depending on the outcome we want to achieve. These tactics are all linked to Stoic principles such as self-awareness, emotional control, and inner strength. By combining these tactics with Stoic wisdom, we can become more effective communicators and persuaders. Let's take a closer look at tactic number 7, the power of commitment. This is a particularly powerful tactic because it speaks to our deep-seated desire for consistency and integrity. When we make a commitment to something, we're more likely to follow through on it, even if it's hard or uncomfortable. For example, let's say you're trying to persuade a friend to start a new exercise routine with you. Instead of just asking them to come to the gym with you, you could ask them to make a commitment to exercising for 30 minutes 3 times a week. By making this commitment, your friend is more likely to follow through, even if they don't feel like it. This tactic is closely linked to Stoic principles because it requires us to be honest with ourselves about our desires and intentions. By making a commitment, we're taking ownership of our actions and outcomes, and that's a key part of Stoic philosophy. To recap, the 10 psychological tactics for persuasion are establishing a connection through shared values, using storytelling to create an emotional connection, using the power of scarcity to create a sense of urgency, using the principle of social proof to build credibility, using the power of reciprocity to create a sense of obligation, using the principle of authority to establish credibility and trust, using the power of commitment to create a sense of consistency, using the principle of contrast to make our message more compelling, using the power of social influence to create a sense of belonging, and using the principle of framing to shape people's perceptions. These tactics are all linked to Stoic principles and can help us to become more effective communicators and persuaders. By combining these tactics with Stoic wisdom, we can build stronger relationships, achieve our goals, and live more fulfilling lives. So which of these tactics has worked for you in the past? Have you ever used the power of storytelling to persuade someone, or the principle of authority to establish credibility? Let us know in the comments below. And if you want to learn more about persuasion and Stoicism, be sure to check out our next video on related topic. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.